What scares you about making art? That's my question for you today. For me, for a really long time, it was making mistakes. I would be so scared every time I sat down at this desk that whatever I was about to work on or whatever project I was about to start was just gonna get completely fucked some way or another. I still think that to some degree. Like I sit down, I'm ready, I know what the next step is, but I just see everything that can go wrong with it. Turns out there's two things about that. First, that is just kind of an accepted thing that I've kind of gotten used to. I suffer from anxiety. I've been diagnosed with general anxiety disorder, and one of the things that I do with my anxiety is I catastrophize. That means that I imagine every worst possible scenario when I think about a lot of things, including things that are very important to me, hence art. The other thing that, the other reason why I think that is because it's true, in our art, in anything we do that's challenging, to be honest, in life, like everything we do has a level of risk to it, right? Because we're humans, we're flawed, and we're imperfect, and what we make is imperfect. No matter how much we try to make it perfect, it's imperfect. And I think that's kind of beautiful, but I also see in a world where there's a lot of pressure to perform and stand out and, be good by some sort of abstract standards, that can be really scary. And you know what it is, but it also makes things kind of exciting. And what I realized, what I started realizing that I have made that shift from new adventures and endeavors being scary to now they're exciting. Despite all of the knowledge that things can go wrong and mistakes will be made. If anybody out there owns a paper cat piece or will own a paper cat piece, I invite you to look at the back of it. Just open the frame up and look at the back of it. You will see many pieces of paper that are layered on top of each other, cobbled together, and kind of willed into submission. And that's because each piece is not pre-planned. I kind of figure out a lot of it as I go. And I'm sure a lot of you can say the same. And that's become actually really fun for me. And I think the reason for that is not really too much of what I've learned as an artist, but what I've actually learned being a designer. So some of you know this, a lot of you may not. I'm not a full-time artist. I actually am professionally a software designer or a product designer, and I design websites and mobile apps and other fun things. I'm currently working in the education space, and in design there is this philosophy called iteration, which basically means the first, you approach something with the mindset of making it in versions or phases. And when you do that, you kind of go in there knowing that the first version that you do is going to be nowhere near what the final product's going to end up being. And it is gonna suck. There's gonna be a lot wrong with it. You're gonna make a lot of assumptions about it. You're gonna have a vision for it, and that vision's gonna kind of crash and burn as you go, because once you do that first version, you're gonna get a ton of feedback, whether it's external from users that are actually going to be using the project, who are testing it for you, to people you're working with, to just yourself. Like the act of making something makes you kind of see it a lot more clearly than if it's just kind of stuck in your head, right? So what's the beautiful thing about the process of iteration is that because those expectations are already kind of laid out, like you're going to gradually go from the journey of like sucking to not sucking, it kind of takes the pressure off, and you can just focus on the making and the thing and and do the things that are going to help you learn and really equip yourself to go to the next phase. And you do that a couple of times, maybe it's twice, maybe it's 18. I've done a lot of versions of a lot of things. And eventually you end up with something that was way better than what you initially envisioned. And that's kind of the point. I think that's kind of the beautiful thing about like anything that we make, including art. I have this tree that I'm working on, right? And I can't tell you how differently this was in my head, but I just started cutting and started doing whatever my hands were capable of doing. And you know what? There's some mistakes here. It's not perfect, but I really like it. And yeah, it took a little bit of perseverance to like have it all click together, but I'm happy with it, and I know what I need to do to make myself even more happy with it. And if I didn't like it, I would just be like, well, it's just paper. And I would start over. And yeah, it'd be frustrating. And yeah, I'd be a little bummed. But then I'd have, a nice cup of tea, watch a movie, sleep on it, come back the next day and be like, not so bad. And then I would be able to like do what I need to do. Yeah, I think TLDR, mistakes are great. And mistakes are totally what we should be making, especially if we want to be doing this for a while, because you're gonna inevitably be learning, right? And I think it's totally okay for not everything that you make to be something you consider your masterpiece, to be something that you consider 100% brand worthy, something that's gonna get tons and tons of likes or help you get a lot of followers, or help you get that gallery deal. It's really about making a lot of work and a lot of mistakes, to then kind of pick out those diamonds in the rough that really exemplify kind of those milestones in your journey, and where you can look at it and say like, hey, this is a moment where I learned and I took all that learning and something really wonderful came out of it. And that's like the beauty of life too, right? You just have all these moments where you realize you've grown and you're really proud of yourself. And I think that totally like relates to art as well. I would love to know what you think about this. I just kind of had these extra thoughts coming out of my head after I posted that post yesterday about my experience with tissue paper and how I made a big gamble that paid off. Definitely had a lot that have not though, so that's an exception. But yeah, talk to me about mistakes and risks. I can't wait to hear from you. Hope you're all well and safe, and talk soon.